Good morning. Expecting everyone's attention. We'll get started here. I'd like to welcome you all out to Mountain Meadows Golf Course here. Nice to see everyone. Thank you for coming out to the SCPGA Rules Workshop. Here today with us, leading the program, we have Director of Golf for Bel Air Country Club, Mr. Dave Podas. So Dave, thank you very much.
Thank you, Max. It's great to see this many people turn out for an education seminar on a Monday in the fall. Normally we don't get this kind of turnout unless we're about 4 days before a recertification period, and I think everybody knows we've just passed one of those. So you're all to be commended for being here. I think everyone in this room recognizes and understands the importance of the topic we're going to go over this morning. Max gave me a nice introduction, but with me today we also have Jeff Ninneman. Jeff is the Director of Rules and Competitions for the Southern California Golf Association. He's an excellent rules man. He's been with them for some 15 years, and we're lucky to have Jeff with us today. So Jeff, thanks very much for being here. Well, why are we here? Well, we are here because for the last several years, the United States Golf Association and the R&A have been working on this big rules modernization project. And in about 90 days, at 12:01 on Tuesday, January 1st, this thing is going to roll out. And the game as we play it today is going to undergo some pretty significant changes. I think it's fair to say that if you play on that Tuesday, the way we are playing today, you almost couldn't get through 18 holes without making a mistake. And what we hope to cover today is not the minutia in the rule book that rules geeks like Jeff and myself ponder over, but we hope to gather all of you and give you a good foundation for being able to go back to your clubs, your associations, and play the game without making any big mistakes, because we are going to cover the presentation we've put together today will cover these major changes. Now we've got to keep a couple of things in mind as we stumble through this today. First, everybody's got to remember neither myself nor Jeff have yet to play a tournament, play a competition under these new rules, nor run a tournament under these new rules. So we've got a lot of the answers, but everything we've done so far has been in classrooms and has been very academic. So we really don't have any working practical knowledge with this new book. But we do think we've got enough knowledge so that in the next few hours we can help all of you get over the bridge and get started the right way with this new book. As we're working through it, certainly the rules of golf are ever so slightly dry, so this is going to be an interactive day. So if all of you don't ask Jeff and I a few questions, we'll start calling on all of you, and we both know enough people in the room. You don't want that to happen. So let's make sure we ask plenty of questions. And a final thought before I turn it over to Jeff to get started here is this. One of the things we know with both the new book and the old book is that if you want to have a fighting chance to understand and be able to operate effectively with the rules of golf, one of the things you absolutely have to spend some time with is the definitions. You've got about zero chance to manage your way through this book without understanding the definitions and the language of the game of golf. Now the old book had 15 pages of definitions and about 52 or 53 of them. The new book, I think, has 22 pages of definitions, and there are about 73 of them. And it's going to be very important, and the best suggestion I can give all of you as you move forward and try to understand this new book and get better at these is you have to spend some time with those definitions. Because all of us in this room have become very familiar with some terms of golf that have changed and taken on some new meanings. I'll give you a perfect example. I don't think there's anybody sitting out here in this room today that isn't familiar with the term casual water. I think we all have heard the term casual water. We all would recognize casual water if we see it. But when you open this thing up, casual water has disappeared. It's gone. It's now called temporary water. Okay, so they've renamed casual water. They now call it temporary water. They've expanded that definition, and it's different than what all of us are used to dealing with. So again, there are little nuances like that that will make this learning process for all of you either a lot easier or a lot harder. So once again, study those definitions, learn what the language of golf means, and you will be a big leg up on most everybody else. So with that, I'm going to kick it over to Jeff, and we're going to talk about the beginning of these major changes. And Jeffrey, come on up here.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. It's a special day for me, not only to be with all of you, many of you I know and spend a lot of time, give your time to both the SCGA and facilities that host our events. So it's fun to be with you all today. It's also fun for me because I grew up working at Minneapolis Golf Club under Dave Podas. I learned the game of golf as a teenager at MGC, and when I graduated college, it had helped that the newly appointed pro at Bel Air Country Club was atop my reference list, and so pro, it's a pleasure to be with you here today, and thanks for everything over the years. So we're going to dive right in. As Dave mentioned, lots of changes scattered throughout the entire book. We're going to cover things like the spirit of the game and etiquette. That went from being part of the kind of the opening, the preface of the rules of golf, to right there in rule number 1. A lot of the changes in the rules were designed to promote faster pace of play. So we're going to go through a section today where we learn about that a little bit. There's definitely some relaxed requirements and reduced penalties. And perhaps no places we'll see that more than the putting green, in bunkers. What happens when your ball is accidentally deflected, even by you, the player. We're going to come to find out there's no longer a penalty there. Determining who or what moved a ball at rest. We've seen that one just continually evolve under current day Rule 18, such as things like the Dustin Johnson ruling in the U.S. Open, and that one's just continued to change, but now we've got some pretty clear procedures on how to handle that. The term penalty area. Dave first mentioned that casual water is gone. Well, another thing that's gone is the term hazard, and that of course would include a water hazard as well. So we're no longer going to be referring to water hazards, but rather this term penalty areas, and that term is much more expansive than just what we may think of when we think of a river or a ditch or a pond. We were talking about it earlier this morning. Maybe the biggest change that will affect players on day one is just the relief procedure, dropping a golf ball, and what that's going to look like in 2019 versus today, and especially not only how we're dropping, but where we're dropping. I think the rules have done a nice job really making that consistent. So really, anytime you're dropping a golf ball, it's more or less going to be the same procedure, and we'll dive deeper into that. We've got a new option for an unplayable ball in a bunker. I'll be curious to see how that one plays out. And finally, some changes with regards to advice, equipment, and then a highly talked about new local rule, which is an alternative to what we know as stroke and distance. So as I mentioned, the spirit of the game and etiquette. This used to be a section of the rules. It wasn't even in rules 1 through 34. It was just kind of in the preface to the rules. And this is right in the book in Rule 1, and that is part of playing by the rules addresses the etiquette and the standards that we hope to hold all players to. Okay, all players are expected to play in the spirit of the game by acting with integrity, showing consideration to others, taking good care of the course, which is going to mean things like raking bunkers, replacing divots. And as we mentioned, the rules are going to be a little more relaxed now to encourage players to care for the course. And we also now have an expected code of conduct, which is bridged into the rules of golf. Okay? This is sort of a minor change, but it goes along the lines where the rules are trusting its players to play with integrity. Okay? In the past, as an example, if you needed to lift and mark your ball to see if it was in fact yours, in other words, you weren't sure if that was your Titleist 4 or someone else's, I would have to say, hey Mark, heads up over there, I'm going to mark my ball and lift it. I had to make that announcement. And now in today's rules, we no longer have to announce that to someone or give someone the chance to watch us. And then that's all part of this concept that everywhere else the rules expect its players to play with honesty and integrity. Why not here? So we've gone away from that that announcing part of this rule. Player judgment. Okay, especially in an area or in an era with so much focus on technology, with what can be seen through high definition replay, etc., there's a new part of the rules here which, as long as you, the player, are doing all that you reasonably can to, let's say, estimate where you last crossed the edge of a penalty area, as long as you're making your best estimation or your best judgment, okay, there will be no penalty if you prove to be wrong in estimating one of these spots on the course. Okay? And that's important because a lot of times players will drop in a place which factually turns out to be, 5 yards off or even 20 yards off. But if you, the player, are again, using your best judgment, your best reasonable judgment based on all the circumstances, there will be no penalty even if it turns out that we get that wrong. I mentioned the standards of conduct. For those of you who administer tournaments, which is most of you, you're now allowed to have a code of conduct for your events. It needs to be by local rule or as part of your conditions. But if you have a published code of conduct, you can now assess players' penalties for breaches of that conduct. Up to this point, the committee could step in and disqualify a player for a serious breach of etiquette, but really nothing else. So we almost went from 0 to 60, and there was nothing in between. So beginning January 1, we will have this ability to enforce a code of conduct, and really it's up to the committee to set its own penalty structure.
Jeff, do you see the SCGA as adopting a code of conduct for your competitions?
Yeah, great question. So would the SCGA do this? And the answer is yes. We already have a code of conduct. But again, we're just sort of listing things, and it would have to be pretty severe for someone to get disqualified. Now, moving forward in 2019, what will probably change is we'll probably attach a penalty structure to that code of conduct. So an example might be a player helicoptering a club down the fairway, or excessive poor language, which we've all heard on the course. Now all of a sudden the committee could say, okay, that's going to be a penalty of 1 stroke under this rule. Okay, so everybody see the difference there? Gives the committee a little more latitude, I'd say. Okay, and you'll find that under Rule 1.2b, everyone's got their new books. We've been talking all morning. A lot of the challenges for us in learning the rules aren't necessarily going to be as much about the outcomes of some of these things, but it's going to be about finding them. The rules have been restructured quite a bit, but you'll find this under 1.2. Okay, and as we mentioned, this could be anywhere from a penalty of 1 stroke to the general penalty, and the committee still does have that option to go straight to disqualification if they wish. But I think you'll see this enforced much more, and now we've got these lower levels of penalties that we can start with.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Just to expand on something that Jeff talked about for a second. Simpler, more complicated, we're not sure yet whether the new book is simpler or more complicated. We talked about trying to find stuff in here, and those of you that have spent much time in here, it's a bit of a challenge at first to get in this book and figure out where everything is. The old book had 34 rules, the new book has 24. All the 34 that we used to have, they're still in there. They just squished them together. As an example, the putting green was Rule 16 and Flagstick was Rule 17. Now Rule 13 is both. So we didn't lose any. They didn't get a lot simpler, did they, Jeff? They got compressed. So as you're stumbling through there, you'll find them, but they're all in there. What they've done, pace of play certainly has been at the top of the list for years, and the rules have got a little bit more specific in addressing those. In Rule 5.6 spells out now, where it didn't before, it encourages faster play. And when we say it encourages faster play, it talks about in match play, players may agree to play out of turn to play faster. They're not agreeing to waive a rule still, but if groups get behind, two players playing in a match can look at each other and say, go ahead, I'm not ready, why don't you go ahead and play. Now they give up the right to recall the stroke when that happens for playing out of turn, but Rule 5 now talks specifically about match play. There are times when players can play out of turn to speed up play. It also talks about in stroke play that players are encouraged to play ready golf in a safe and responsible way. So as Jeff alluded to, they've relaxed some of those requirements in an effort to speed the game up a little bit.
It is important that you are aware of how your pace of play impacts others. The 2019 rules encourage prompt pace of play by all players by recommending that you play promptly throughout the round, such as by preparing in advance for each stroke, moving at a good pace between strokes and between holes, and that you make a stroke in no more than 40 seconds. The 2019 rules also expressly allow for you to agree to play out of turn in a safe and responsible way to save time or for convenience. This is often referred to as ready golf. To learn more, please visit usga.org/rules.
So we talked about ready golf being encouraged. Yes? Absolutely not. That's right. And at those levels of competition, we all know the importance of order of play and match play. I like to think about that a little bit more on the local level. Many of us deal with team play, both men's and women's. They're playing match play, groups get behind. Me as the golf professional may go out and suggest to those players, all right, you're 2 holes behind. Let's now play ready golf until we catch up. But I wouldn't expect that the Curtis or the Ryder or the Walker Cup that they would stand on the tee and say, no, we're not going to abide by the order of play rule. It was never intended to be that, but it does give us a little bit more leeway at the club level for sure, the local level, to help groups catch up that do fall behind. Great question.
The order of play when starting a hole depends on who has the honor. After that, it is based on which ball is farthest from the hole. In stroke play, however, there is no penalty for playing out of turn, and the 2019 rules both allow and encourage you to play ready.
This is a big one. Now, I don't know about all of you, but I've lost a couple of golf balls. 3 minutes is not very long. That is for sure. But evidently, many believe that this will help speed up play, and I guess it will. But one of the things I would have all of you make note of, when we're dealing with ball searches, remember, if it's your ball, you may want to pull your caddy or your partner back and have them delay the beginning of the search until you get there so you can have all hands on deck. Because remember, that search starts whenever your partner, your side, begins looking for that ball. So you don't have much time now at 3 minutes. So I think the prudent play here is to make sure you use that 3 minutes wisely. This is a big, big change, and I think it'll have far more effect on the tours than it will with us at the local level. And beginning next year, caddies may not stand behind the players to help them line up. So we're going to talk about a couple different situations here. One in the fairway, what we now call the general area. Another one of my favorite golf terms that we've gotten rid of is through the green. Through the green, which we've come to know and love, is out the window, and now we are talking about things that are in the general area. When a player is now in the general area, he may not have the assistance of his caddy lining him up. Now, I think we've all seen that. We know what that looks like. And the important thing to remember here, ladies and gentlemen, is you can't undo this penalty. Okay? Here's what I mean. If I'm getting ready to just pretend you're my caddy for just a second. I think you used a caddy for me, didn't you?
On occasion.
All right. So if I'm preparing to make a stroke and I start to work into my address position and Jeff is standing right there, I will be penalized. There's no way, even if I back away and say, Jeff, you can't do that, and start over again, I own that penalty right now. So from the time a player begins addressing the ball, that caddy can't be positioned behind me on an extension of my line behind the ball. This changes a little bit when we get on the putting green. When we get on the putting green, if I get over a putt, and I see Jeff back there, and I go, Jeff, you can't be back there, and I back away, get out of my address position, he moves away, and I come back in, now I'm okay. Everybody see the difference there in those two situations? When we're in the fairway, the rough, the bunkers, the general area, if he's behind me when I'm addressing the ball, I can't get out of that penalty. On the putting green, I can get out of it by breaking my address position, stepping away, he moves out of position, and I start all over. I like to think of this a little bit as almost kind of being the Jim Furyk rule. You guys see Furyk gets in and out of that address position about 3 or 4 times before he pulls the trigger. And sometimes his caddy's back there and sometimes he isn't. But on the putting green, you can back out of that penalty. In the general area, you cannot. Yes? Off the tee, same thing, same problem. You're going to be penalized. For anything but someone on the putting green, you're going to be penalized. Is that how you understand it, Jeff?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes?
It says that the teeing ground is not part of the general area.
No, the teeing ground is one of the 5 defined areas. But the putting green is the only one of the 5 areas where that penalty will be rescinded and go away. Yes?
At what point on the putting green can the penalty be incurred? I mean, I could have my caddy stand behind me, start to line up, step out, start to line up multiple times, ask him to step away, he's actually helping me read the green. At what point would the penalty be incurred?
I have no idea.
I would think it's if you make a stroke after the caddy had been behind you
Right.
when you're taking your stance.
So your caddy can actually help you on the green, but arguably he's not.
Well, I don't know if there's an argument there. If I'm lining up the putt and Jeff is behind me and I get away, he moves away, now I'm good. Now if he's still there, I'm not good. So, is that?
Penalty is
He had.
And I think it's more part of, the caddy's allowed to help you read the green. And so some of that may happen while the player's over the ball, and I suppose if Dave addressed it, I'm here, and now I leave, I'm not there, but if Dave were to make a stroke, he'd be penalized. So I don't even think it's necessarily whether I the caddy am here or here, it's whether or not the player breaks that stance.
So if when he leaves, I never get up, I never change my feet, I never move. We're gonna get it. Does that help? Yes. I didn't hear the last part of that.
Can you say it louder? I think you do. Again, you had your caddy behind you once you commenced taking a stance. The fact that you knocked the ball off the tee and you broke your stance, I think is irrelevant. Once that caddy is behind you, when you make your stance,
You own it.
you own it.
Great questions. Sure, absolutely. That last question, which was a good one, was on the teeing ground, ball's on the tee, caddy's behind, player knocks the ball off the tee accidentally. Is that penalty going to be rescinded? And we don't believe so. Yes?
Does this include a partner?
Like alternate shot.
Yeah.
Anybody.
Yeah, it would.
Anybody. Good question.
Yeah, it certainly wouldn't be exclusive just to a caddy.
An interesting thing about the rules, and we'll talk about this a little bit today, but now the word player is going to include the partner in almost every way. So an example is in today's rules, the partner cannot drop the player's ball. Moving forward, the partner can drop the ball because, again, the partner can do anything that the player can. So I think if you got a ruling where a caddy would be on the hook for something, the partner certainly would be as well.
Be on the hook as well. Yes? That, you got the Rule 10, page 86. If you look at page 87, there's a diagram there that has little green checks or little red X's, and does a pretty good job of explaining that. It's got to be just before that, Jeff.
Yeah, there's exception.
The exception at the bottom of page 86 talks about the putting green. All right, one more question in the back. They will be irrelevant. They've gone away. They've gone the way of the buffalo. So they'll be collector's items here in another 90 days. There is a new book. It's called Interpretations, isn't it, Jeff?
Yeah, the official guide to the rules of golf.
Right. There's an interpretations book. It doesn't have nearly the volume that the old decisions book has. It's only about 150 pages. And the reason is what they've tried to do is take a lot of those decisions and incorporate and expand them into the body of the rule itself. A lot of the 0.5 decisions that talked about, that just clarified things. So the decision book's going away. Most of those things are incorporated into the new book itself, and there's a very small guide to the interpretations that will be available. It's not out yet, it's online, but the book will be out pretty soon.
The rules permit you to freely exchange advice with your caddy or partner, but you're required to act alone when making a stroke. Under the 2019 rules, once you start taking your stance for a stroke, neither your caddy nor partner are allowed to stand behind you. To learn more, please visit usga.org/rules.
There, we answered that question, didn't we?
You were on
You know,
club, so once you put 1 foot in.
I think so. I think
Step the club down.
once you start to get into position, and we all address the ball in different ways, but I think that's one of those things that will be obvious when you see it. That if Jeff is standing back there and the minute we start to do that, okay, the general penalty. Talking about caddies again, and this will certainly, one more. Two players are playing. Who are you? No, I'm saying. Yeah, that's not a problem. You're not there assisting me. Right. Yeah, and remember, it's not the behind that they're chasing down. It's the assistance in lining up. Big one here. Caddies now may always mark, lift, and clean the ball on the putting green. That's a big one. Prior to this rule change, the caddy had to have authorization from you each and every time to lift and mark that ball on the putting green. Now, caddies can always lift, mark, and clean the ball on the putting green. I know at clubs like ours, where most of the rounds are played with caddies, but that's a big deal because the caddy gets to the green first and will often mark and clean 2 or 3 golf balls before any of the players get there. So I think this will certainly help things move along a little bit faster.
Under the 2019 rules, when your ball is on the putting green, your caddy is allowed to mark, lift, and clean it, with or without your approval. If your caddy has marked and lifted your ball, it can be replaced by either you or your caddy. To learn more, please visit usga.org/rules.
Any questions on that one? That one's pretty self-explanatory, but I think that's a good change, and certainly nobody's going to be benefited by this, but this will, I think, absolutely help speed things up. Anybody else does? Anybody else does? This rule change here kind of slipped out a little while ago, and I think people have, it's been in, it's been out of the book, but you are now allowed, nor will you be penalized for putting with the flagstick in. You can putt with the flagstick in, ball can strike the flagstick, so no longer will that be a penalty for putting with the flagstick in the hole. That's probably a good one, huh? Would you all agree? I don't see that being too terribly difficult. Now this last one's interesting, and I don't know if Jeff knows a little bit more about this than I do, but clubs, associations, courses will have the option to incorporate a local rule that allows the stroke and distance penalty to change. So a club like this one could adopt a local rule, whereas if I hit a ball out of bounds, rather than re-teeing, I could take 2 penalty strokes and drop the ball in the fairway as close as I can tell where the ball went out of bounds. Is that how you understand it, Jeff?
Yeah, we've got a good video at the end, but there's a large region. The video does it.
Does it justice?
The video does it justice. Maybe we'll
All right, let's play the video and see what we get.
It might be a little later down the.
Okay.
We'll get back to that one.
Yeah, that's a big one, and just to talk about that for just a second more, that new local rule for stroke and distance, as we understand it, is certainly not for high-level competition. We wouldn't have it in state amateurs. We wouldn't even have it, I don't believe, in club championships, things like that. But it would be a local rule that places might use to encourage faster play on a day-to-day basis or at very entry-level competitions. Is that, Jeff, kind of how you understand understand that? All right, relaxed requirements and reduced penalties.
Okay, one other little interesting fact that our slides didn't cover, but I thought of it as Dave was going through talking about your 3-minute search for a ball that might be lost outside a penalty area. So one of the always kind of tricky concepts in the rules is when could you play a provisional ball? Let's say we teed off, you know, maybe 5 years ago, the verbiage was such that, well, even if my golf bag, which had my next golf ball in it, was some 30 yards ahead of the teeing ground, you know, I had gone forward to search, but really I was just going forward to get another golf ball out of my bag. Okay, and that was kind of problematic. A couple of years ago, they changed it to saying, well, I could go forward maybe to search up to 50 yards or so. And if it then became clear that, well, yeah, I better play a provisional, why don't I head back? Okay, that was all of a sudden allowed. Now, under the new rules, as Dave mentioned, we got 3 minutes to find or to search for a ball. You can actually return to the teeing area and play a provisional ball at any time within those 3 minutes. Okay, so let's say you're riding in a golf cart and you get up to the area in question in 45 seconds. You might even search for a minute or so. You might tell your caddy and your partner to keep searching. I'm going to drive back. Okay, that's now going to be allowed in 2019. I think it'll be tough to have any kind of a meaningful search and get back within 3 minutes, so I don't think you'll see that a lot, but it is now going to be okay. You know, we've all heard that question when someone's been looking and they say, oh, I'm going to go back and hit a provisional, and we immediately say no, but now in 2019 that will be allowed. So just another little interesting fact here. Okay, we've been talking about relaxed requirements. I suppose that would be an example of one right there. Now we'll get into some of these key areas of the golf course. So on the putting green, and if you would have asked me a year ago what's one rule of golf I would have liked to see changed, it would certainly be, you know, the ability to touch a putting green and repair any kind of damage. So here we go.
The 2019 rules allow you to repair almost any damage on the putting green. In addition to ball marks and old hole plugs, you are allowed to repair spike marks and any other damage caused by shoes, repair animal damage, and repair damage caused by maintenance practices. The fixing and repairing of the putting green must be done promptly and must not improve your line of play beyond the repair of the damage. To learn more, please visit usga.org/rules.
I just attended a 4-day workshop, and Mark Wilson, who's a PGA member, a great way that he explained this was, you know, you're allowed to restore the putting green. Okay, so really anything that you would do to restore the putting green is going to be fair game. Okay, you're certainly not going to be allowed to sort of build a trough, you know, or improve your line of play. But you know, any of this damage that was perhaps either created, as they said in the video, by a maintenance worker, by another player, by another caddy, that's all going to be fair game to be improved now. I think that's a good change.
Question, yes, sir.
Gary.
I'm sorry, I had to jump back one. You know, you talked about it is okay to tell your caddy to wait to start the search until they get to the ball and everything like that. Now, what if you have, in junior play, we have spectators, parents out there, and often they're at the ball way before anybody else and start to look around, and then the player and the caddy really delay their going down the fairway to give that
sort of undue delay, in which case, I don't have it right in front of me, but again, the rules have addressed undue delay and some different penalty structures associated with that moving forward. But yeah, that 3-minute start time will not begin until the player, caddy, partner, and partner's caddy, get to that estimated area. And so, to be honest, I've never seen one where they're delaying walking to the ball such where you maybe impose a penalty. But the one that we have seen is certainly when you've got a hole where perhaps it just makes more sense for the caddy to wait out in the fairway, or maybe it's a 4 caddy. The player's caddy's gone ahead. In that case, the caddy thinks he or she is doing their job by looking for that ball, but really that time is starting at that point. It's not starting when the player gets there.
So you're telling me that if it's a 260-yard drive and the caddy is at the turn and he starts looking, it takes you that long, it'll take you 3 minutes to get there.
Might.
Yeah. I mean that would be an instance where, to the pros' point, 4 eyeballs are better than 2. So
what we're going to do now is keep the caddy with us so we don't.
Well, yeah,
Or tell the caddy,
Not
if
to
I
look.
get a ball that's in a questionable spot, hang on until I catch up with you.
Or not to look.
That's right.
Yeah.
So when he's got a whole bunch of gallery out there looking, they found it.
Good for him.
Is there a gray area in there?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I think the minute the caddy begins to actively search, that is when the 3-minute clock is going to begin. So, I'm not even quite sure what that would look like, but maybe the caddy would just casually wait, near the fairway, kind of blatantly not looking for the ball. But that'd be a situation where, I mean, certainly if there were a lot of spectators, what the ball is typically found. But and again, I haven't seen this happen a lot, but I suppose if you do have a situation where caddies are ahead, that time will go quickly now.
I would absolutely tell my caddy to hold on till I get there.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
That caddy may want to tell the spectator, don't look for that ball. That player may not want to find that ball. Yeah, Phil's right, that didn't work.
Question over here? Sure. Yeah, you can use a tee, give a repair tool. You can tap it down with your putter. Yep, that's correct. And there's no change in how you can repair any of this. It's just the change was it used to just be ball marks or old hole plugs, and now it can be any of the types of damages that the video referenced.
Yes, question here.
If you hit the ball in the suspect area and you hit another great shot, say in the park or something like that, and you declare your ball still lost and not look for it?
Well, you don't have to look for it. Look at that ball.
Yeah. So the question was you've hit a poor shot. You followed up with a provisional, which maybe goes right next to the hole, and the question is, well, can I declare that ball lost? The answer is no. And for those of you who have really been involved in rules over the years, that there used to be 5 ways that a ball can be lost, and now there's only 1 way, and that's by the 3-minute search period expiring. But to your question, in that example, you just simply won't look for the ball. You would just go make another stroke at the ball that's maybe up near the hole, and now all of a sudden, that original ball is no longer in play. Okay. Okay, let's see here. Yes, sir. One more, then we'll keep going. Did you have to wait 3 minutes? Oh no. In that example, no. You could simply go right up to the hole or wherever that second ball was and play a stroke at it, and that would render that first ball abandoned or out of play. Okay, we've got yet another video here.
Under the 2019 rules, when you are assessing the line for your putt, there will be no penalty if your caddy or partner touches the putting green to point out where you should aim or how your putt will break. This includes touching the green with the flagstick. To learn more, please visit usga.org/rules.
repairing that damage, we can now touch the putting green in pointing out a line for play. I think we all agree that, you know, simply holding the flagstick down on the ground, you know, what benefit is really being gained there as opposed to just hovering it an inch above the ground? Probably none. So just again, you're allowed to now touch the putting green in pointing out a line for play. Kind of another neat little intricacy here is, you know, in the past we used to have what was called a line of putt. If your ball was on the putting green, and if your ball was off the putting green, it'd be called a line of play. Now it's just a line of play, regardless of where your ball is. So that's why you see on the screen there, touching line of play. Even though you're on the putting green, that's our line of play, and you're always going to be allowed to touch it. Okay?
Running the 2019 rules.
Oops, sorry, I skipped one before there. Okay. The video perhaps spells it best, but I'll just tee it up by saying, you know, we referenced this at the beginning. The whole concept of accidentally causing your ball to move, aka the Dustin Johnson ruling at the U.S. Open, is really what sparked this change. So let's watch the video and we'll elaborate.
Under the 2019 rules, if you accidentally move your ball or ball marker on the putting green, there is no penalty. For example, if you accidentally move your ball in making a practice swing or in preparing for your stroke, drop your ball marker on your ball and move it. Move your ball with your foot. Or cause your ball marker to move. There is no penalty, and you simply replace your ball or ball marker on its original spot. To learn more, please visit usga.org/rules.
Jeff, is it fair to say you almost can't get penalized on the putting green? You almost can't.
Yeah, it's getting tough. It's getting tough. And, you know, certainly if anything is accidental, as the video showed, you're not going to be penalized. So a lot of tournament organizers, if follow the Dustin Johnson ruling, adopted a local rule. That there was a local rule that's been in place now for the last year or so, relating to a ball at rest accidentally moved on the putting green. And the USGA will tell you this change was coming even during the Dustin Johnson ruling. That ruling sparked the necessity to have that local rule over the course of the last year, but this rule was always intended to be a part of this modernization effort. So again, as the video showed, if you kick your ball, if it moves in the process of marking it, if it's a practice swing, there's not going to be any penalty. This is another neat one. Let's watch the video first.
After you mark, lift, and then replace your ball on the putting green, if it moves for any reason, including through your own accidental actions or for some other reason such as wind. Always replace your ball back on its original spot. If you don't know the exact spot, estimate it as accurately as you can and replace the ball there. To learn more, please visit usga.org/rules.
The ball was still in play. Okay, we lift it, it's out of play. If we put it back down on the putting green, it's back in play, even though the coin was still there. Okay, and then there was a famous incident that I think just happened in the last couple of years. Bill Thompson, you're a desert guy. Was that at Mission Hills in the ANA? A woman was on the 18th green, I believe it was, at Mission Hills. A sudden gust of wind picked up and blew her ball into the water hazard. Okay, now being a yellow water hazard, that made the rule situation a little complicated, but the bottom line was wind blew her ball off the putting green into the lake, and she had to deal with that situation. What this video is telling us is once we mark our ball, pick it up, and put it back down, we have now basically reserved our parking space on the putting green. Okay, even if wind were to subsequently blow that ball off the green, or just a matter of inches, we're going to be replacing it. So, again, this whole concept between, you, the player, accidentally causing your ball at rest to move, or in this case, natural forces causing your ball to move after you've replaced it. In either scenario, we're going to put the golf ball back where it was. So this is actually a pretty big change. And as Dave mentioned, it's now going to be okay to strike under that unattended flagstick or a flagstick in the hole.
Under the 2019 rules, there is no penalty for hitting the flagstick that is in the hole when you've played your stroke from off the putting green, or if you've played your stroke from on the green. So if you want to leave the flagstick in the hole, perhaps to save time or because you think it helps you, there is no penalty if your ball hits it. If your ball is not holed, play it as it lies. To learn more, please visit usga.org/rules.
Okay, and that's a concept I think we're all pretty comfortable with, but nevertheless a big change, especially just for recreational play.
Question, sir.
Yeah, so if he was putting on the putting green and there was somebody else's ball there because they were raising the ball there and he hit the ball, there's no penalty for hitting the ball.
Oh, that's different.
Yeah, that would still be a penalty. So if you make a stroke from the putting green and you strike another ball that's at rest on the putting green, that's still going to be the general penalty, which is 2 in stroke play, or loss of hole in match play to the person who putts.
Also, if I understand it, it really is up to the player whether you want the flag. The player has to say whether you want the flag taken.
Talking about the definition of an attended flagstick.
Attended flag, it's pretty clear that the player has to make it known.
Yeah, so with regard to leaving the flagstick in, you still do have to have the intent prior to making a stroke. If you're going to have the flag in or out. So even though the ball can strike the flagstick now, what still can't happen is I putt, my ball is tracking, and then Dave runs over and grabs the flagstick. So that's still going to be a penalty. So to your point, yes, you still kind of have to make your mind up before the stroke.
So if I have my caddy or partner coming in and they don't pull it, and it's a tennis, that's still not penalty?
Yeah, that's a good question. Everyone hear that? So you're having the flagstick attended by your partner or your caddy, and for whatever reason it just hits the flagstick. Assuming it's accidental, assuming they weren't deliberately leaving it in there, there's going to be no penalty. You're just going to play the ball wherever it comes to rest.
So that would be a check.
I suppose so. There might need to be a little interview there, but we kind of know that one when we see it, or so we hope.
So on a windy day, if you want to say, Charlie, go pin the flag for me. I don't want you to pull it because the wind's blowing the flag around. I want to leave the pin in, but just hold it so there's no pin on the way to the other.
Yeah, that gets a little interesting. And now I think we might be, well, or deliberately influencing the movement of the ball. We have to dig into the book. But if you're having the flagstick just held just so that it doesn't move, that doesn't sound right to me.
So if you have an attended flag, he has to pull it.
Or make an attempt to.
Or make an attempt to, period.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, I mean, again, why would it be attended if you're not actually going to have it pulled out in the new world order? So.
And if they do pull it out and lay it down, then you hit the pin.
Yeah, I think you're okay. So long as it's not deliberately placed somewhere, so that it could benefit the player.
So if you accidentally hit the pin out and it's laying on the ground,
Jeffrey? What do we think of these new rules so far? Thumbs up or down? Do we like them or not? Yeah, all right. Kind of medium, huh? All right. How about this one? Big change will save a lot of people and make all of our lives easier, I think. It is now going to be okay to move loose impediments in a bunker, in a penalty area. Moving loose, we're no longer going to be penalized if we move loose impediments in a bunker. That, as somebody that does some officiating, has always been a problem over the last few years. Sometimes people by habit reach down and move a leaf or a stick, or I think this will really help people in administering the game. This is one of the things where they've tried to, as the USGA describes it, try to remove traps in the rules where a player gets trapped into a penalty where they inadvertently reach down and pick up a stick or a loose impediment and bang, they catch two. So, wonderful change here.
Under the 2019 rules, there is no penalty for moving loose impediments when your ball is in a bunker. However, some bunker restrictions continue to exist.
Question? Can we lose impediments in a penalty area? The answer, Jeffrey. Yeah. We used to call them water hazards, but we're going to call them penalty areas now. Anybody else? Any questions? Different. That's a problem. You'll be penalized if that happens. You're allowed to move them, but the ball cannot move in the removal of a loose impediment. That would be a one-stroke penalty, replace the ball. Okay? Throw them. I think that's probably all right. All right. As we've talked about, bunkers, okay to move loose impediments.
For example, you are still not allowed to touch the sand with your club, behind or in front of your ball, when making a practice swing, or when making your backswing. To learn more, please visit usga.org/rules.
Some bunker restrictions continue to exist. For example, you are still not allowed to touch the sand with the club, behind or in front of your ball, when making a practice swing, or when making your backswing.
Everybody pick up on that? Well, you can't touch the sand in the bunker in making a practice swing, but what you can do is in a bunker, this is no longer a penalty. Okay? Leaning on my club in the sand, not testing, I'm nowhere near my ball, this is not a penalty. Now this was a penalty, it's a penalty today, but this won't be a penalty. That's a big difference, and again, that's kind of one of those traps that they have removed where a player might accidentally do something like that, set their club down there like that, and catch the general penalty there. So, big improvement. You're still going to be penalized for testing the condition of the hazard, but you won't be penalized for merely touching the sand. You can use that club to move loose impediments, you bet. Can't improve my lie, area of intended swing, anything like that, but I can use that to remove loose impediments. Don't you think, Jeff? Yeah.
Is that going to be dependent on how close that impediment is to the ball?
No, because you can remove loose impediments without restriction.
But you can't touch the sand except near the ball. Is there a radius around the ball that we're limited to?
Yeah, I mean, it says ground the club. What does it say? Ground the club immediately in front of or behind the ball. So to me, that's part of the
on the sand next to your ball when you did it? I mean, if you did, I think it's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say avoid the appearance of evil and just use your hand. If
Yeah,
that's-
and that's a great answer. Avoid the appearance of evil. I like that, Jeff.
We get a lot of those characters.
This is one of my favorite new rules. A ball in motion deflected. If a ball in motion is accidentally deflected by you, your equipment, your opponent, anybody, there no longer is a penalty. Big change. Big change here. These accidental deflections, play the ball as it lies, no penalty. Hit your clubs, hit your opponent, hit your caddy, hit your partner, no trouble. Play the ball as it lies. Pretty simple there, and I think this will make everybody's life a lot easier. Remember, today opponents have the option of replaying a stroke. Stroke play, we're getting a one-stroke penalty for hitting our players, our partners, our equipment. So this is a big change and should be a good one. Yes, sir?
Including the double hit?
We're getting to the double hit. That's another one of our favorites. We talked about with Jeff a little earlier the movement of the ball in the putting green, the accidental movement there. Again, no penalty there, part of the code now, not a local rule addition. Another real big rule change here, ladies and gentlemen. When we talk about accidental movement of the ball, remember today, we play golf this afternoon. If we're searching for a golf ball, I am going to be penalized if I accidentally move my ball during a search today. In 3 months, nobody is going to be penalized if that ball is accidentally moved during a search. The player, the partner, the caddy, nobody is going to be penalized if a ball is moved during a search. That is absolutely a welcome change. If you were the player looking for your own ball, you had to tiptoe around in that long grass as to be careful not to step on it or move your ball. Now you can go in there, you can, I think, a little more aggressively, Jeff, look for that ball. If the ball is accidentally moved during a search by anybody, we're just going to put it back on the spot or the estimated spot. Okay, pretty clear.
Under the 2019 rules, there is no penalty if you accidentally move your ball while searching for it. If you do, replace your ball back on its original spot. If you don't know the original spot exactly, like this player, simply estimate it, including how the ball was lying under the grass, and replace the ball there. To learn more, please visit usga.org/rules.
Everybody catch that last part, including how the ball was lying under the grass? So if we accidentally move that ball under the grass, we're expected to put it back under the grass. Okay? Question over here. That's okay. Yeah. Your club, your foot. Right, Jeff, you don't have a problem with that, do you? An accidental movement is just that, an accidental movement. Hi, question up here. No, that's right. Good. That's a wonderful point of clarification. The question was, there's no more dropping. Remember today, if we're out there searching and I accidentally kick my own ball during that search, not only am I going to be penalized, but because I didn't know the exact spot, it's a drop. Next year, we will estimate that spot and replace the ball. So that's a significant change there, and a wonderful question. Who asked me about the double hits? At my club, this is going to be a big deal because I get this question about 4 days a week. Accidental occurrences, double hits, current rule, it's a one-stroke penalty. Current rule, under Rule 14, this is a one-stroke penalty. Going forward, there triple hit, or multiple hits, no penalty. We're going to play that ball as it lies. We're going to count the stroke and play the ball as it lies. That golfer has had enough trouble without tacking one more onto him. So he's, again, a welcome change. Any questions about this one? If you intend to hit the ball and you miss it, you missed. Count it. Swing at it again. Anybody else? Everybody kind of like that double hit rule, don't we? That's a good one. That is a good one. It's going to improve your chipping, did you say?
Okay. Before we dig back in, I've got to fess up to some close to accurate but not quite accurate information I provided in the last section. The question was asked about a ball being struck from the putting green. You make a stroke from the putting green, you hit another ball which is at rest. And I said that was 2 strokes in stroke play or loss of hole in match play. That's only halfway true. In stroke play, that is a penalty. But in match play, there's no penalty if you make a stroke from the putting green, you hit another ball at rest on the putting green. And you know that's been around for a while. That's not new this year. And then really the foundation of that is that in match play, you and your opponent both have total awareness of the landscape of your match. And in this case, the putting green. So, you know, if your opponent wanted to lift his or her ball before you played, certainly could have done that, but because he didn't, there'd be no penalty if your ball struck it in match play. Now, the section staff was nice enough to give us four Ryder Cup money clips, and so I'm going to present this to the person who corrected me or who called me out, Mr. Lee Wortman. Now, if anyone else tipped you off, you know, there might be some debate as to who deserves this, but there's our first of 4, and we'll I guess that means we got 3 more mistakes to make, but okay. So we've heard this term virtual certainty over the last numerous years, and it's typically been with regard to whether or not you're virtually certain that your ball is in a water hazard. That's kind of how we know this term to date. And then you're going to see in the new rules that term is used more frequently. And one of the ways it's used is determining who or what caused a ball at rest to move. All right, we've got a video on that.
Other than when your ball is on the putting green, if you take an action near your ball and cause it to move, you get a 1-stroke penalty under the 2019 rules. However, you are only responsible for causing a ball to move if it is known or virtually certain that you did so. This means when it is 95% or more likely that you caused it to move. For this player, it is not virtually certain that his actions caused the ball to move. Therefore, the ball is treated as moved by natural forces and played from the new location. To learn more, please visit usga.org/rules.
Love that video. They somehow got a hair dryer out to the 13th fairway, it looks like here, and you saw the grass blades move and the ball at rest moved. But a couple interesting things there. First of all, they finally kind of tied a percentage of certainty to this term virtual certainty. You heard him say you've got to be, call it 95% certain, whether or not the player caused the ball to move. In this case, saw the player make a practice swing, some time elapsed, looked like there was some wind, and all of a sudden the ball moved. So in this case, we're not going to be 95% certain that it was the actions of the player that caused the ball to move. So it's natural forces at that point, in which case that's why the player played the ball where it came to rest without penalty. Okay, penalty areas. You've heard us talk about this term, And again, this is really replacing the term water hazards amongst other things.
In the 2019 rules, when you take lateral relief from a red penalty area under a one-stroke penalty, estimate the point on the edge of the penalty area where your ball last crossed as it went in. Starting at that point, measure or estimate your 2 club lengths relief area outside the penalty area that is not nearer the hole. In the 2019 rules, club lengths are the length of the longest club in your bag, except your putter, and then drop a ball in that area. Your drop ball must land in and come to rest in the relief area. To learn more, please visit usga.org/rules.
In short here, what we're really talking about is, again, water hazards, but then there can be more, as you heard in the video. So if you've got areas of your course, you know, here in Southern California, we see a lot of really densely vegetated hillsides, often kind of desert landscape. So now it's going to be up to the committee at a course or the committee of a competition to decide, okay, what all do we want to mark as penalty areas? You know, in the past, we've got that decision that more or less discourages us from marking anything beyond a water or a lateral water hazard. Going forward, though, you can incorporate more things, okay, which might help pace of play at your club, might just be a little more player friendly. And as you saw there, you know, you're still going to be allowed to play the ball as it lies. You're now going to be allowed to ground your club, remove loose impediments. Okay, so really to me, the biggest changes are just what you can do there, but maybe even bigger is kind of the expanded nature of what can be considered a penalty area. Now, you know, we often get the question, well, should we be marking our, you know, in today's terms, should we be marking our hazards red or yellow? And the way the USGA would always describe that is, well, you should start with the mindset that everything should be yellow, you know, unless it's impossible to kind of go back on that line to a place where you'd be taking relief, and in which case we give you the 2 club lengths, which you'll find with a red lateral water hazard. In today's, or in the 2019 rules, what they're saying is that any penalty area can be marked red. So, you know, I think one of the things is we were all waiting for the new rules to come out, that there had been talk that yellow was gone. Yellow was going away. And that's not true. Yet yellow is still here. You can still mark a penalty area yellow. But now really what they're saying is that you've got the freedom to mark anything red. So, you know, by show of hands, how many of you have both colors at your course, both red and yellow? Quite a few. So, you know, you may think, you may consider things to yourselves like, well, is that confusing to our players? Do players know the difference? You know, do we have holes where we want to still preserve the integrity of the hole and not allow someone to drop on the putting green side of the penalty area? In which case you might keep something yellow. But, you know, lots to think about at your facility, especially as it relates to penalty areas. And we can talk about that maybe a little more after lunch. But in short here, any penalty area can be marked red. Question?
So in a penalty area, is a bunker not part of the penalty area because you can't ground the club there?
Yeah, so that's a great question. In today's terms, the term hazard includes both a bunker and a water hazard. Now moving forward, penalty area is kind of what we're talking about here, and a bunker is a separate area of the course. Okay, so bunkers and penalty areas, or how do I say it? Bunkers and water hazards, you know, you no longer have that those terms. Penalty area, bunker, they're separate.
So when we're defining the penalty area, or which what we decide to mark as red, would you on a golf course, if you have hole number 1 was adjacent to your driveway, would you make that a red if you're the rules official, or would you keep that out of bounds?
And the question was, we'll try to do this going forward, is to just repeat the question so everyone can hear it. The question was, should we be marking our driving ranges as a red penalty area or continue to mark it as out of bounds? You know, to me, I'd probably stick with out of bounds. You know, I don't know that we want golfers in the middle of the driving range playing a stroke, which they could if it were a penalty area. So, I guess you'd have your choice, but I'd probably go with out of bounds. A few other things, again, we've hit on these. It is okay to move loose impediments from penalty areas, big change there. It's okay to make practice swings. It's okay to ground your club. And it's going to be okay to touch the water. Yes, sir? Everyone hear that? Can you break a twig in a penalty area? And in general, the answer to that's still going to be no. Okay, that's a condition affecting the stroke, and you know, unless it breaks as a result of you sort of fairly taking your stance, or you making a backswing and it breaks. If it breaks in a backswing and you complete the stroke, there's not going to be a problem there. Today or tomorrow. That's right. Ron?
Will regression be allowed in penalty area?
Question is, will regression be allowed in penalty? Kind of like today's 26-2. Yes, that rule is virtually unchanged. It may look a little different. It's got different numbers, but that one is all the same.
The 2019 rules introduced the term penalty area, which includes areas previously known as water hazards. If you find your ball in a penalty area and want to play it from there, the same rules apply as when playing a ball from the fairway or the rough. So before making a stroke, you are allowed to move loose impediments, make practice swings that touch the ground or any water inside the penalty area, and ground your club near your ball. To learn more, please visit usga.org/rules. If you find your ball in a penalty area and want to play it from there, the same rules apply as when playing a ball from the fairway or the rough. So before making a stroke, you are allowed to move loose impediments, make practice swings that touch the ground or any water inside the penalty area, and ground your club near your ball.
Well, what do we think? Do we like it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
The question came up here about just quickly describe what regression is.
Okay. Thank you. Good question. So, Ron asked, will the regression rule, for lack of a better term, still exist? And what that means is, there are plenty of times when a player plays a stroke, today from a water hazard, tomorrow from a penalty area. Maybe you're on a dry bank within a penalty area. It goes deep into the water. So now what? Okay, and so there are rules. We won't go into all of them, but there are ways you can get back outside the penalty area in that scenario. So that's what we're referring to when we talk about regression.
There was a time, quite a few years ago, where if you
played your ball from a water hazard and you played it deeper into the water and couldn't get at it, you were done. You couldn't keep playing anymore. You start out with your ball in an inch of water and you hit it and all of a sudden it's in a foot of water and you can't hit it. You literally had to stop playing. So they introduced, as part of the water hazard rule, this concept of regression, which allows you to get back out from the place where your ball went in, for simplification. So you could keep playing, but there was a time before where if you hit a ball from a water hazard and it got in too deep, you had to walk in. You couldn't finish your round. So that's what the term regression deals with.
Okay.
Did I just understand you a while ago, you said in your backswing, if you break something off in your backswing, as long as you continue, there was no penalty?
Yeah, that's correct. Again, the question.
Aren't you improving your line to your ball?
Well, you are, but as long as you complete the stroke, there'd be no penalty.
On your backswing?
On your backswing, right. If you were to do that in a practice swing, okay?
It's different, but I'm saying, but my regular swing, I could break something off going back. That's not improved my line coming back to the ball.
So long as you complete the stroke. That is correct. regression?
All right, here we go. If I'm in the water and I hit it deeper into the hazard and go for it, I can actually drop outside the hazard or back where I was in the hazard? Either.
And tell you what, let's go through these first, and then we'll talk about, we can go into the regression just a little bit. So what are your options when you're in a penalty area? Well, these really haven't changed much. However, you'll see we've got some different ways we're dealing with this first one in particular. So whether you're in a red or yellow penalty area, your first option, in addition to, of course, playing the ball as it lies, you can proceed under stroke and distance. Now, what does everyone notice about this slide that looks a little different in tomorrow's stroke and distance than today's? Okay, everybody see that? We're estimating our spot where we last played under stroke and distance, and we are going to get that club length of relief area. Okay, so in today's rules, when you proceed under stroke and distance, you're almost trying to drop the ball, virtually on the divot or wherever that ball was just played from. Okay, now tomorrow we're going to go back to our estimated spot, and we get to drop within a club length. Okay, not near the hole, so that's stroke and distance.
Everybody remember the famous ruling a few years ago where this exact principle applied? Exactly. Tiger 15 at Augusta.
Yeah. Back on the line relief. Let's watch a video here that's pretty helpful.
When taking relief from a penalty area for one penalty stroke, one of your relief options in the 2019 rules is going back on the line. Follow these steps. Estimate the point on the edge of the penalty area where your ball last crossed as it went in. Imagine a straight line running from the hole through that estimated point and extending behind the penalty area. Go back as far as you like and identify a spot on that line. Measure or estimate a 1 club length wide relief area on either side of and behind that spot. In the 2019 rules, a club length is always the longest club in your bag except your putter. Then drop a ball in the relief area. Your dropped ball must land in and be played from the relief area. To learn more, please visit usga.org/rules.
Boy, lots of important information just in that video, and Dave will go into some of this later as we talk about dropping, but you notice similar to stroke and distance, when we're going back on the line, in today's world, you go back on the line and you drop it right on the line. Okay, in 2019, you're going to go back on the line, that's going to establish your reference point, and now you get to drop within 1 club length, not near the hole of that reference point. So as we know today, you're not required to mark that area with a T. I think going forward, it's going to be a better practice to mark these areas within where you're going to drop. Still not required, but for some reasons that we won't fully get into here, it's just going to make life easier if we're actually marking that reference point.
In the 2019 rules, when you take lateral relief from a red penalty area under a one-stroke penalty, estimate the point on the edge of the penalty area where your ball last crossed as it went in. Starting at that point, measure or estimate your 2 club lengths relief area outside the penalty area that is not nearer the hole. In the 2019 rules, club lengths are the length of the longest club in your bag, except your putter, and then drop a ball in that area. Your drop ball must land in and come to rest in the relief area. To learn more, please visit usga.org/rules.
In the 2019 rules, when you take lateral relief from a red penalty area under a one-stroke penalty, estimate the point on the edge of the penalty area where your ball last crossed as it went in. Starting at that point, measure or estimate your 2 club lengths relief area outside the penalty area that is not nearer the hole.
additional option which is available to you because it's a red penalty area as opposed to a yellow penalty area.
There's also a difference in camp rule 2.
We'll talk about that.
Okay, and here's one which, you know, not so commonly used, but certainly a key part of the rules today was always this additional option of dropping a ball equidistant from the hole on the opposite margin of the lateral water hazard. What this is telling us is that going forward, this option will not be available for opposite margin relief from a penalty area unless the committee makes a local rule for this. You know, my personal recommendation, unless you've got a course where this is just a very common practice, you know, to me it just doesn't necessitate creating this local rule. You know, I think it just adds a layer of confusion, and again, unless you frequently see this on a particular hole at your course, you know, I'm not sure this is worth the trouble of having. Okay, it's complicated to understand, and again, it's only available now by local rule. So this option just doesn't exist otherwise. Okay, we'll try to go into the regression here kind of quickly and easily. We won't go too deep. We can take these conversations offline a little later. But you know, back to the scenario where let's say I'm in a red penalty area. I'm on the dry bank, and I chunk my shot deep into the water. Okay, for penalty of 1 stroke, I can proceed under stroke and distance, which in this case is going to be dropping, that was almost another money clip for you, dropping right back onto the dry bank, right? If I don't want to try that again, what the regression that Dave talked about is I sort of regress to having all of those original options that I had for a ball in a penalty area, meaning I could drop within 2 club lengths, not near the hole. I could do my back on the line. I could even go to the place where I played my last stroke from outside the penalty area, and I could have all those options for 1 penalty stroke. Okay, so, you know, just think of the player whose ball is on the lily pad. Chunks it off the lily pad, now the lily pad's gone. As Dave mentioned, there'd be no other way of playing golf if we couldn't somehow get you back outside the penalty area in that example. So we can go a little further on that if anybody wants to.
That kind of makes sense. Get that? You get back out kind of how you got in.
Okay. We're going to keep moving, bro.
Bet you want a break, don't you? See, when we were splitting these up, I gave Jeff the tough ones. All right, where are we? Simplified dropping and redropping procedures. One of the big ones here, as I said, this is probably the area where if you played golf on Tuesday, January 1st, you couldn't finish a round properly without being able to manage this part of the rules. In the old book, it's Rule 20. Was it 14 now in the new one? I think?
Yes,
There's
correct.
14. Okay. When a ball to be dropped, the player must drop the ball. Okay? Player must drop the ball, and the ball must be dropped now at knee height. Now we've got plenty of people in this room that remember years ago. Remember when we used to drop the ball like this? Can anybody, I've got a money clip, John Fiedler or Sarge or one of you old guys, can you tell me when that changed? Anybody remember? Who said 1984? Boy, that was impressive. You're a winner. That was quick. Congratulations. 1984. We used to face the hole and drop over our shoulder. Then we went this way. Now we're going knee height. When you drop the ball has to be dropped straight down. You still can't throw it, spin it, or roll it. The ball has to hit in the relief area. A couple things to point out here about dropping the ball. When we drop the ball, and this is a little bit different, it can't hit you or your equipment before it hits the ground, but it can hit you after it hits the ground. All right? That used to be a redrop before. It is no longer a redrop. Now think about what I just said. We drop the ball from knee height. If it hits my foot before it hits the ground, that's a no drop. And there's no limit to the number of times we no drop the ball. If I drop the ball from knee height, it hits the ground, bounces off my foot after that, and ends up in the relief area, that ball's good to go. Right? Ball is good to go. When we drop the ball, it also now dramatically different than today. Today we drop the ball and it has to land within our prescribed area, 1 club length or 2 club lengths, and then from the point it hits, it can roll up to 2 more. Everybody kind of remember that from the way we're playing today? You drop it, it lands within your 1 club length, you're on the side of a hill, it can roll up to 2 more. That's going away. Okay? That is no longer in existence tomorrow. Now you drop the ball within your 1 or 2 club lengths, and the ball has to come to rest within that prescribed area. Okay? So we're knee height. The ball has to not only land in the area, but it has to stay in that area. It can't hit you on the way down, but it can hit you after it hits the ground. As long as it is accidental, there's no deliberate deflection, and the ball remains in the prescribed relief area.
When dropping your ball under the new rules, the likelihood you will need only 1 drop will increase, while the randomness of your resulting lie will be preserved. The procedure is simple. Hold the ball at knee height, let go of it so it falls straight down, and make sure that it lands and comes to rest in the relief area. Don't throw, roll, or spin the ball, and don't let it hit you as it falls. To learn more, please visit usga.org/rules.
When dropping your ball under the new rules, the likelihood you will need only 1 drop will increase, while the randomness of your resulting lie will be preserved. The procedure is simple. Hold the ball at knee height, let go of it so it falls straight down, and make sure that it lands and comes to rest in the relief area. Don't throw, roll, or spin the ball, and don't let it hit you as it falls.
Everybody get that? Pretty simple. I think the ruling bodies have made that a little bit easier for all of us. And remember, your club length is the longest club in your bag except your putter. Right? Always the longest club in your bag with the exception of your putter.
When you drop in relief areas defined by 1 or 2 club lengths, in the 2019 rules, a club length will always mean the length of the longest club in your bag, except your putter. For most players, that club will be their driver, but not always. This player is using his driver to measure his 2 club length lateral relief area, outside a red penalty area. This player's back on the line relief area is 1 club length on either side of and behind the point he has chosen on the line from the hole through where his ball was unplayable in the bunker. He is estimating the size of his relief area without measuring, then dropping well within 1 club length of that point. Finally, when a player measures with a shorter club, it is still the longest club in their bag, except the putter that defines the relief area. Remember, when you drop, your ball must always land in, come to rest in, and be played from the relief area. To learn more, please visit usga.org/rules.
Okay, does everybody understand the new dropping rules? Question over here, yes. If the ball is dropped in the right area, you'll incur a penalty stroke for that. For right place right, Jeff? Now
Yeah.
we call that now?
Yep.
Ball's played from the proper area, but the drop itself wasn't correct. So you will get the benefit of having a penalty stroke added to your score for that hole. Yes?
You can correct the drop if it's incorrect.
You can correct the drop. Now, there is still what we used to call the eraser rule, where you're able to correct a mistake for a ball dropped either improperly or in the wrong place, but not yet played. And for the life of me, I don't know what the number is. I used to know what it is, but I don't know what it is now. You know what it is? The eraser rule?
Yeah, it's 14
something.
14 something, 14.5 or 6, I think.
Talking about Rule 14, 14, like old Rule 20, that's one you gotta know. 14 is the ball that 14 is the rule that gets the ball up and off the ground and back on the ground. So, as you're dedicating any time you might spend with this new book, 14, besides the definitions, 14 is the one that gets the ball off the ground and back on the ground.
14.5 is your new eraser rule.
14.5, the correction. So a ball dropped, not yet played. We can fix that mistake if it's in a wrong spot or dropped the wrong way.
Just a point of order, how did they arrive at the knee area as opposed to what they sent out originally, that you were gonna be above the ground? I mean, it's great for a short person.
Yeah, I think, Skip, it all hinged on them wanting to preserve, kind of the randomness of the lie. And actually had the chance to talk with Thomas Pagel about this, and I think, one of the concerns was the thought was going to be it could be anywhere shoulder height or less. And, they kicked that around. They even kicked around. Okay, so then theoretically that would mean ankle height, right? You could drop it from ankle height. And one of the things they were worried about there was, in the case of tall rough, it might not be clear whether or not the player was dropping or placing the ball because their hand was so close to the ground, or maybe the tall grass. So I think that's how they settled on knee height. They wanted to preserve randomness, and just the possibility of dropping from ankle height was going to be, too problematic.
So, like go back to the old rule that if it's a redrop and the ball rolls closer to the hole after the second time, what did you do then? You placed it. So why didn't we just go to placing the ball as opposed to dropping?
I think the USGA would answer that they just had to preserve the randomness of a lie.
Right.
So if you're taking relief, they didn't want you to be able to just choose how your ball was sitting in the
I'm
grass.
sure that's the answer. The randomness of the lie. That's not a money play.
I got my own money for it.
What are we down to anyway?
Yeah, we're down to 2.
We're down to 2, all
By
right.
the way, that girl dropped it, she was at her knee high, she was a little bit above her knee.
All right, next. We in the same spot here?
We're good.
All right, the estimated reference point. That is the nearest point of relief or the point where the original ball last crossed the edge of a penalty area. This term estimated reference point is going to be very important. The spot where the previous stroke was made. So you need to understand, as we talked about before, how to estimate the spot where the previous stroke was made. The point, we're talking about embedded balls here, aren't we, Jeff? So a ball that's embedded, that reference point would be immediately behind where that ball was embedded, for a ball that is embedded. And I think that changed, Jeff, didn't it, the embedded ball to include anything in the general area? No longer by local rule expanded?
That's correct. It's now flipped, whereas, this year it would be, the rule would be
Closely
closer
known
areas.
areas.
You make a local rule to make it anywhere through the green. Going forward, it's reverse.
So it will be, the embedded ball rule will be in effect everywhere unless you take it out. Okay, so we've expanded that. Let's see. Club lengths, we've talked about that. The arc, all within 1 club length of the reference point, not nearer the hole. See that player drawing a line from the hole back across the spot, one club length either side. It's just giving you a little bit more room. It's protecting the player. It's going to be easier for the player to get the ball in the right spot and not get trapped accidentally into dropping the ball in the wrong spot. Club lengths, lateral relief is always 2 club lengths. The free relief is 1. Penalty relief, 2. There, the lateral relief, that player's dropping 2 club lengths from that reference point, no nearer the hole. It is still 2 drops and then place. And we'll talk about that now, when to redrop.
In the 2019 rules, when dropping and taking free relief or penalty relief, your ball must be dropped in the defined relief area, and it must come to rest in there too. Most of the time, with the knee-height dropping procedure, that will happen on your first drop. When it doesn't, drop a second time. If that drop doesn't stay within the relief area either, place a ball where your second drop first touched the ground. To learn more, please visit usga.org/rules.
That really isn't much different, the redrop procedures. Obviously the height of the drop is different, but it's drop, place still. Everybody clear on that? Anybody have any questions about that? Let's see. When to redrop, we just talked about that. Saw that video. Drop, place. If you drop the ball the wrong way, okay, it doesn't count as a drop. It doesn't count as one of your 2. So if you drop the ball this way or this way, that is a wrong drop, and it doesn't count against the 2 drop in place. So if you don't drop the ball properly, you just keep dropping it. All right, everybody clear on that? So the ball has to be dropped from knee height. So any drop other than that is not considered a drop. And if you play the ball from that spot, you'll be penalized. That's a 1-stroke penalty for playing the ball from the right area, but with an improper drop. Again, we talked about it can't hit the player or the player's equipment before it hits the ground. It can hit it accidentally after it hits the ground, but not before. So again, a right way drop, meaning dropping it at knee height, landing in the prescribed area, that 1 club length area that you see shaded here, and then accidentally touching that player's foot and ending up in the right area is still good. Big change here. All drops now permit substitution. Free relief and penalty relief. Now, what that means, we're coming off a cart path, commonly known as an obstruction. We take relief from a cart path under, what do we call it now, the abnormal course condition. We're not calling it abnormal course condition. We take relief. We can now drop any ball. Today, you have to drop the ball. Might seem minor, but that's a big deal. That is a big deal when we are taking relief from sprinkler heads, cart paths, those kinds of things. So much of today's rule book required us to drop the ball, our original ball, and when we move forward tomorrow, when we take relief from either a free relief area or a penalty relief area, we will be able to substitute a ball in there. That used to happen all the time, where a player would pick a ball up and somehow got a different ball back in play in that substitution. today is a penalty. So again, another one of the traps that the association's removed to try to make it a little bit easier on the players.
When the 2019 rules let you lift your ball to take relief instead of playing it as it lies, you will be allowed to either use your original ball or substitute and use a different ball. In the 2019 rules, you are allowed to substitute a ball when taking free relief, as well as when taking penalty relief. This player is substituting a ball when taking free relief from a cart path. To learn more, please visit usga.org/rules.
Does that make sense to everybody? Anybody have any questions about dropping? Yes, sir. You do not. You do not have to notify your playing partners that. They've given the player more credit, I think, with this new code. They're more trusting of the player. As Jeff said, where you used to have to announce intention to mark and left. The game of golf, ladies and gentlemen, expects that the players will play honestly and by the rules. And I think we see that even more so with this new code. The onus is on the player to call penalties on themselves and to play the game honestly. So the rules are not written and have not been written to chase cheaters, if you will. The game is one of integrity, and the rules are written under the presumption that everybody will be playing fairly and by the rules. And that's why they've removed some of these requirements, like the one you're referring to.
So does that hold true on a provisional ball too?
That does hold true on a provisional ball, actually, Jeff, I believe now. The announcement, if the tree falls in the forest and nobody's there to hear it.
Yeah, you're still gonna have to announce you're playing a
Right.
provisional, but if no one were there to hear, it might be when you catch up to where the other players in the group are standing, you could announce to them.
I have to say, well, first one was the tightest three, this is the tightest four.
No, and really today you didn't have to say that either. That's really just more of a courtesy. But you still need to announce you're going to play a provisional ball if
Right.
anyone's within earshot.
That's right. If you were to walk back to the tee and you were back in a tee box all by yourself and said, I'm playing a provisional ball, and come up and I said, hey, what are you doing? He said, you know what, I went back and played a provisional ball. The rules believe you. Even if there was nobody standing back there. That's the trust part of this deal that has been slightly expanded. Any other questions on dropping? Wonderful. I think that's probably the biggest change. As I said earlier this morning, I don't think you could play on Tuesday, January 1st and get through 18 holes without ending up on a cart path or a sprinkler head or something. And you need to be able to manage your way through this new dropping procedure to be able to correctly play under the rules. Jeff, bring it home. We got just a few more.
Okay. Okay, here's an interesting change. We talked a little bit earlier about things that you might see at the highest level, things that you probably only see at the recreational level. This one, I would guess, would probably be the latter there. But in 2019, there is another option for a ball which has been deemed unplayable in a bunker, and that is for a penalty of 2 strokes now. We're going to find that you can take back on the line relief under this rule. Let's take a look.
When you decide your ball in a bunker is unplayable, under the 2019 rules, you have an extra option that lets you drop back on the line outside the bunker for a penalty of 2 strokes. Imagine a straight line running from the hole through where your unplayable ball is. Identify a spot on that line as far behind the bunker as you like. Measure or estimate a 1 club length wide relief area on either side of and behind that spot. Then drop a ball in that area. Your dropped ball must land in and be played from the relief area. To learn more, please visit usga.org/rules.
Okay, so again, for a penalty of 2 strokes, in today's rules, really the only way that you would get out of a bunker without by talent would be if you proceeded under stroke and distance, assuming that that place where you last played was outside the bunker. Going forward, again, for 2 penalty strokes, you'll now have this back on the line option. Keep in mind all the rest of your bunker unplayable options are still the same. So for 1 penalty stroke, you could keep it in the bunker, but now for 2, you'll be able to get out. Okay, we did talk about this with regard to pace of play, but again, now we're kind of in a section that's just talking about advice and help. We've covered this. The caddy cannot stand behind the player, as in this case she is preparing to take her stance for an upcoming stroke. We talked about the caddy always being able to mark, lift, and clean the ball on the putting green. Okay, no problem there. This is kind of an interesting change, and I don't know how often we see this, but maybe it applies a little more on the tour, where additional clubs are at their disposal should they need them. But if you damage a club moving forward for any reason, and that's an important part of this, for any reason, whether it's accidentally playing a stroke right next to a tree, the club snaps, or in this case, this player wasn't thrilled with his execution. In this case, you're going to be able to either continue to play with that club or have it repaired. Okay, now in today's order, this is actually a really confusing rule. Okay, it all depends today on how that club was damaged, if it was in the normal course of play or not. Your options would change. You could go replace a club if it was damaged in the normal course of play. But going forward, you're really not ever going to be replacing the club unless someone else caused that damage besides yourself. Okay? But you will be able to continue to use this golf club in 2019. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So if you get a little lead tape on the back of your putter, if that came off or became loose, you could repair or replace that tape.
But Jeff, this is a pretty big change.
Yeah.
This one, and this change really boils down to you start with your allotted 14, and that's what you get. And really, the only way you're getting another club in your bag is if I accidentally stepped on Jeff's driver. I'm an outside influence. If I stepped on his driver, he could replace that driver. But other than that, you get your 14, you break it over your knee, any of those kinds of things we see, you can repair them, you can keep using them, which you really couldn't do today if they became non-conforming. But once you pick your 14, that's pretty much what you get. You can continue to use it for the rest of the round. Isn't that right, Jeff?
Yeah, that's right. I think a club that begins as conforming is going to continue to be conforming unless you sort of purposely alter its characteristics. You still can't, bend your lob wedge into a sand wedge, etc., and use that club. But in the case of a club that's damaged,
you're good. Yeah. And where that would happen today, where that was a problem today, I know I might have done it once or twice in my career myself, is kicking a putter. And you kick a putter and now it becomes bent and becomes non-conforming. You no longer could make a stroke with that putter today. But going forward, I'll be able to stop for a second, kick it back, and see if I can straighten that thing out. But try to fix it, right, Jeff?
Yeah, I think you can repair it here. So
right, so that's really a fairly substantial change.
Yeah. Well, we're not condoning you to kick your putter, but should you? Things happen. Okay, we talked a little bit about the embedded ball, and some of the things that all the professionals in the room should consider are, okay, what about the club scorecard? What are the things that you've got to think about heading into 2019? So one of them would be that embedded ball local rule. That's just kind of a common. Everybody does that through the green for the most part. You can take that off your local rules going forward because that's just the rule. Another one here is that distance measuring devices, the blanket rule will be that they are permitted. However, you can make a local rule prohibiting them. In other words, not allowing them to be used. Okay, so this is another one for your local rules at your club. Okay, distance measuring devices will be permitted unless prohibited by local rules. So the PGA Tour, as an example, is probably going to have that local rule prohibiting them. I don't think you're going to see distance measuring devices on the tours next year. And here was that local rule that we talked about at the beginning that I think is just simply put a little easier with a video. So we'll watch the video and then talk about it.
Starting in 2019, when your ball is lost or out of bounds, your course can use a local rule that does not require you to play under stroke and distance. Here is how it works. For 2 penalty strokes, estimate where you think your original ball is and how far from the hole that is. Imagine a straight line running from the hole through a point 2 club lengths wide of where you estimate your ball is. Next, at the same distance from the hole, estimate the point on the nearest edge of the fairway and measure or estimate a point 2 club lengths into the fairway. Then, imagine a straight line running from the hole through that point in the fairway. The relief area where you can drop and play from will be quite large, anywhere between the 2 lines, and the distance from the hole your original ball is estimated to be, or farther. You cannot use this local rule if your ball is lost in a penalty area, or if you have played a provisional ball. To learn more, please visit usga.org/rules.
That is a huge change if in fact adopted at clubs by local rule. I'm interested just by a show of hands, how many of you have thought about this yet? And I guess first of all, how many show of hands, how many have thought about this for 2019 at their clubs? And maybe second, how many think they will actually adopt something like this at their clubs just for daily play?
Well, I have a question. If you adopt it, do you have to take the fairway? I thought we were I mean, for some places, out of bounds is 25 yards from the fairway.
Yeah, and I think as we saw in the video, that this could be a huge area or region that you could drop your ball in because it's really extending all the way from where that ball is estimated to be lost, which again, that might be 50 yards right of the fairway, all the way to 2 club lengths within the fairway, and then kind of anywhere in that shaded area as we just saw.
So we're saying if we adopt that, you have to adopt it in its complete form.
Yeah, I mean, if you adopt this local rule, that's what we're adopting, what we just saw in the video. And I had the fortune to talk to Thomas Pagel a little bit about this one, and again, think of we have a lot of these courses in Southern California that have dense hillsides, areas where you're likely going to lose a golf ball. So the question becomes, okay, so I guess we could mark these as penalty areas now. I guess we could just keep treating them as the general area and nothing different, or we could adopt this local rule. And which one of those 3 routes our course is going to go. And so that, for a course to make a decision there, you really got to kind of think through all the scenarios in your head. For 1 penalty stroke, you want someone to be able to come out. And keep in mind, if you treat it as a penalty area, you're going to have to mark it. So you're going to have red stakes all along a hole on your course or a hillside. Okay, if you don't want that reality, maybe you go the local rule. If you don't want that reality, maybe you just leave it as it is today and treat it as the general area, in which case you might have a lost ball. The question is this going to be used for unplayable lies? Now, I think this is a local rule as an alternative for stroke and distance. So I guess the way I understand
unplayable lie.
Yeah.
If you find your ball in an unplayable position, I think you're subject to use those options available to you for that.
Yep.
And this is certainly not an additional option under the unplayable lie rule.
Right.
And it wouldn't be, even if the local rule was adopted, this specimen local rule.
Jeff, in your judgment, would you implement that in a club championship?
You know, that's a tough call. You know, if your club has been using this local rule continuously throughout the year, you know, your club's been posting scores this way, it might be tough to take it down come time for a club championship, you know? This is one of those where I think time is going to sort of tell and be our best friend in telling us how to sort of proceed moving forward. I think sort of changing the way you play your golf course for one event, you know, might be a mistake. But at the same time, I can see folks having the viewpoint that, you know what, for tournament play, this isn't in effect.
I think too, Jeff, that I think the fact of the matter, ladies and gentlemen, is this is how many people play today anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, if we went out here outside these doors right now and watched the foursome going down the first fairway and they lost the ball on the hillside on the woods up here, what do you think? You think they'd come back? No, they're not coming back. So this really, I think, allows places to legalize what people are really pretty much doing anyway. And what it does do is they catch an extra penalty stroke for doing it.
I was going to say that they're not taking two today, are they? They're just dropping for one out.
That's right, they're dropping for one. So if you do this, you're really legalizing something that practically many of our players do anyway. And if they understand this, there's an extra penalty stroke attached to that, so maybe their handicaps will be better reflected of their ability.
And if you think about it, stroke number one is up in the hillside. They're giving you 2 penalty strokes, and so your next stroke will be your 4th, which is in essence what would happen if you played a provisional into this area. When you then get up to your provisional, that would be your 4th stroke upcoming. So really what this is kind of doing is they're kind of giving you the benefit of the doubt. We all know the provisional is the easiest shot in golf, but they're giving you the benefit that the provisional sort of comes to rest in this area.
I gotta go back to the question that, I mean, if you've got an out of bounds, that wall, and the fairway is out here by this brick, I get to go clear, can I just go 2 club lengths? What's the intent of this? To speed play? But that's not fair moving a guy 50 yards into the fairway when he can just get, it's to keep him from having to hit a provisional ball. So if he just goes 2 club lengths from where the ball is out of bounds and drops the ball, I mean.
Yeah, I guess, Skip, you know, to answer that question, I mean, so the local rule, the intent of it is, in fact, to go to the edge of the fairway, and I hear what you're saying, but I guess think of the scenario where, you know, you hit it over by this wall, but think of the scenario when all of this might be sort of unplayable terrain. You know, the rules, if we're going to have this local rule, I think what they're saying is we've got to be able to let you drop the ball somewhere where you're kind of in a playable position. And in some instances, that might be out to the fairway.
Yeah, but I mean, he had a playable condition, was only 2 club lengths from the ball.
Sure, but again, in some instances, you might not have that playable condition all the way up to the fairway.
If I almost think of it as the old, when I was living and working in Arizona, the old desert rule that they used to use, where a guy hit it out in the desert and wouldn't go out there and he'd just drop one where he thought it was. It's almost just expanding on what we used to use when we kind of bastardized the old desert rule rather than having the guy go back to the tee.
But in that condition, did you just cut to the grass?
In that, we just went to the grass, and here you'd have the ability to go all the way to the fairway. But I think, Jeff, it's important to note if we adopt these local rules, you have to, and that's why you have to, it's a serious thing to be considered. If you adopt them, they need to be adopted in their entirety. You can't take these specimen local rules and pull out stuff you don't like and add in stuff you don't like. When the associations write these rules and you do decide to adopt them, you either get in the pool or you get out of the pool.
Yep, well said.
Well, there will be. None of us have it yet. It's online, but we don't have the book that has the specimen local rules written out.
Was this intended to be used whether it is marked out of bounds, or is this intended for to be used as you're describing, when you have just an area of hillside that's brush, it's not specifically marked as out of bounds? Is that more where this comes into play, as opposed to where you have white stakes down the side of the hole, and the person has to go back and take stroke distance?
Question is whether or not this is intended to be used only for out of bounds, or just if you've got an area where you're likely going to lose a golf ball. And the answer is it's just that. If a ball is lost outside a penalty area or out of bounds, if this local rule was in effect, you could use it in either of those cases.
Either one.
Yeah, so you think of a golf course like this, right out here, where you know I'm not seeing any areas besides the fence where you're likely going to lose a ball. But if that local rule was in effect here, you know your ball might just be under one leaf, and you could come out to the fairway if that local rule were in effect. So if a ball were lost or out of bounds, and you would ordinarily have to proceed under stroke and distance, this is your alternative by local rule.
I would be very surprised if this is widely adopted, quite frankly. I would be very surprised. I think, I'm sorry? Certainly, it's reflective of pace of play, but I would bet, I know as someone administering a golf course, I think this would have great bearing on our handicaps, and I think that it probably won't be as widely adopted as many of us think.
A comment, the text of the local rules, et cetera, are available digitally. If you have the rules of golf app on an iPhone or iPad, that was recently, at least in my case, the last 3 days, updated to be the 2019 rules. And if you have it and go to settings and set expert mode, you have access to the
verbiage,
procedures,
yeah, to the verbiage.
the interpretations, and the local rules.
Guys, at our course in Temecula, it's just 2 big loops. There's hillside and trees along the side that we have reserved. We've already adopted the lateral rule along the side of all our courses. So there's no out of bounds. There's no loud ball. You don't have to make a local rule. That's going to be the new rule.
Yeah, because we have a lot more liberty with these red penalty areas than we did. So you've solved the problem. Like I said, I would be surprised if this is widely used. Okay.
Okay. One more.
Because we all know now, if the rule states if the ball may be lost, you're allowed to hit a provisional. So if this rule's in effect, and you hit your provisional ball, and you go out there, my ball may or may not be lost, but it turns out that it is lost, do I have the option of hitting my provisional and the local rule?
Yeah, I think the tail end of the video said if you played a provisional, we're going to go to the provisional. You're not going to have the option to adopt the local rule at that point. Yeah, no, that's right. Good
No,
point.
this one saves you if you get all the way out there from going back.
Yep.
All right, we got another slide or two?
I think we're more or less at a wrap here.
All right, well, thanks, everybody. We hope you've gotten a little bit out of this. I know Jeffrey and I certainly have. Let's have a little lunch, and like I said, Jeff and I will stick around here and happy to help any way we can.